Hey guys, this is Nate with another episode of 5 Minute Analyst. What we're going to be working on today is a use case of a client trying to learn a little bit more about their immediate community when they don't have any customer data readily available. So they're not really sure who their customers are. So if it's a store or a tanning salon or something like that, and let's say they're not collecting the address information of their clients, or they're not really sure who's coming in or when, this is an easy way to start to understand your market area and dive a little bit deeper to understand the community. So what you need for this analysis is obviously Alteryx with the data package. You have to have the TomTom data. That's where we will build the drive time and the radius. And then also you need data from your client with the addresses of their locations. What I'm using is a file that has all the addresses of all the Anytime Fitnesses, 2,000 plus records. I don't need to analyze 2,000 plus records right now, so I'm filtering that down to just the state of Florida. We take a look at this. You'll see there's a bunch of information in here, most of which I don't need. We have our address information. This is the most critical: address, city, state, zip. You don't need address 2. Address 2 would be suite 201 or apartment 13. From a geocoding standpoint, address 2 is irrelevant because there's not, for the most part, a spatial difference as far as where suite 201 is and where suite 101 is. So what I'm doing here is I'm filtering down. A lot of this information is extraneous and I don't need it in this analysis. It's just going to clutter everything up. So I'm filtering this down to the basic information, my address, and then I'm including phone number just in case you wanted to reach out to this client and talk through it with them. It's just easy to have right there in the file. So what we're doing, our first tools here are the input tool. Select your file, preferably in CSV if you have it. Filter down as needed if you're only looking at a certain region or city or state. Remove anything that's unneeded. You have to have the address information. You should probably have some identifying information for the location so you know which store you're talking about. And then our first geospatial tool is the US Geocoder, and this is found under the mail component. So in the Geocoder, you have several tabs. So we'll go through each one of these quickly. This is basically saying, what do you want it to give us back? And in order to build the shapes, we're going to need a spatial object. So we're going to need to turn an address into a point. So I'm selecting spatial object, and I deselected everything else. Right? We don't need anything, and we don't need any of this other stuff. I also removed the CAS, removed the zip coder, and then identified the inputs. It'll automatically try and find them. And as you can see here, we only need address, city, state, zip. There is no address to field required for this input. So once we have that, this is what we'll be looking at. We have our address, all the information that we pass through, and we have our phone number, and then this is our spatial object, but this is the point that represents this address. So what we need to do is take that point and pass it into our market area tools. So as you see, I have two paths here. One to do 5 minutes. So here I have my value is 5. The spatial object it's going to be looking for is still called spatial object. And the unit that I'm looking at is drive time. So down here, specific value is still 5. Still looking at the spatial object, but I'm choosing miles. So the bottom one will be a 5-mile radius. The top one will be a 5-minute drive time. So I've already run this. But what you get directly out of the market area shape, or the market area tool, is you have your spatial object, which is your point, and then now you have a trade area. So this trade area represents the 5-minute drive time around that location. So to move this forward into something that's easy to use and pass into maybe an open source GIS tool like QGIS, which we'll work on in another segment, what I'm doing is I'm adding a little formula to build a column that will identify the type of shape. So I'm just grabbing the radius size column and then doing a plus, which will concatenate all this text. So I'm putting the space in here for min to represent minutes, because if not, it's all going to be jammed together and it's going to look like one concatenated word, which is not what I want. I want it to be readable. So this is going to say 5 min drive time. And then in my select tool, what I'm doing is I'm dropping off the point. There are ways to map the point and the shape at the same time, but for now, just to keep it simple, drop off the point and only include the shape in your output. And what you'll end up with is a file that looks like this. So Anytime Fitness, here are my addresses, here are my formats, or my phone numbers. Here's the description of the shape. It's a 5-minute drive time, and here's the actual shape. So if we come over to map, and you have to pick a base map, what we'll see is our 5-minute drive times. And now we can work on moving forward and plotting this in a tool that will let you easily visualize the streets, etc. So same thing would be done for the radius. The shapes would obviously not look as unique. They're all going to be circles because it's a radius, but it's the same thing, same idea. Now you can show your client what potentially a 5-mile radius looks like, or a 2-mile radius, right? Whatever works for their business. And you can also show them the drive time. So this will set us up to be able to look more closely at the market areas surrounding their locations. But to get you started with being able to identify the market area, here are 2 easy ways to do it. One being 5-minute drive times, another one being 5-mile radius. And again, we can switch these values to whatever makes sense for your specific location. Now, when we come to our browse tool, I would recommend saving this as a shapefile. That'll allow us to easily bring this into our GIS tool, which we'll cover next. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. Hope you found this helpful, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.